Hello and ni hao, everyone. Welcome to the Food Packaging Forum webinar on food contact regulation in China. I am very pleased to have so many people join us here today, and most of all, I'm very happy that Dr. Marco Zong is here with us today. He's our speaker who will share his thoughts with us on the Chinese food contact materials regulation in a few minutes, and I will take some time to introduce him in a second. Thank you so much, Marco, for being here with us right now. We are doing this live, so we have a few technical challenges, but I hope that we can get going in a second. First of all, please don't be confused that the title of this webinar is not Chinese food contact regulation, but this indeed is the webinar on Chinese food contact material regulation. Good. I would like to take a few moments to introduce Food Packaging Forum to those of you who don't know us yet. I guess most of you do. We're a charitable foundation. We were established 2012 in Zurich, in Switzerland. We focus on science communication, on chemicals in all types of food contact materials, and we're interested in migration of these chemicals into food and the impact on health. So low levels of many different chemicals that migrate into food, how does that impact health if we consume these chemicals on a daily basis? Good, and I see that Marco is uploading his slides right now, so while we wait for Marco's slides to load, just a couple more words on Food Packaging Forum. So we focus on current contemporary science. We try to share with you the newest scientific information that is available. We are funded by donations, so if you find our work valuable and you would like to support our work, then please talk to us, send us an email, come see us, and yeah, we're very happy to welcome new donors in Food Packaging Forum. And what I also would like to say is that we're governed by a foundation board which is independent from our donors, and our foundation board consists mostly of academic scientists and science communication experts. So that ensures that we focus our work in a scientific way and avoid conflicts of interest. Good, and while we're still waiting for Marco's slides to load, I would like to just go through the agenda of today with you. So as soon as Marco can start his presentation, we will hear from him about the new Chinese food contact materials regulation. And following Marco's presentation, we will have time for questions. So please feel free to send me your questions. If you have any, you can just email them anytime starting from now until the end of the webinar. The email address to which you can send your questions is events@fp-forum.org. So that's events@fp-forum.org. Great. Okay. Good. And I see Marco's slides have loaded. Excellent. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to our speaker, Dr. Marco Zong, who is joining us from Beijing, China today. Marco is director of the National Reference Laboratory for Food Contact Materials in Guangdong province, and he's also chairman of the Expert Committee on Food Contact Materials at the National Food Industry Association in China. So Marco, very welcome, and please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. I'm sorry about the camera problem. I just made a presentation with voice, with you, and sorry for everyone couldn't see me. hopefully in the future we can meet each other. And thank you for James' invitation and introduction. It's a pleasure to be invited to join this opportunity to share with the participants global from Chinese food content material legislation, which is extended in China. Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, Marco, we can hear you fine. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. It's great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my presentation could be divided into three parts. The first is I would like to introduce why China needs to initiate the reform on food content material legislation. And the second part, I'm going to introduce a rough comparison with EU, FDA, and China. And finally, I will give you some recommendation on how to demonstrate the legal compliance of Chinese legislation on the food content material. And before I start my presentation, I would like to say our National Reference Laboratory for food content material is affiliated to IQTC, who is a technical third largest city in China. IQTC has the history of more than 30 years in operating various laboratories aiming performance compliance tests and scientific research, internal safety of food, and consumer. Main service into three parts. Number one is the number two is to, and number three is to perform the research activities on migration and risk assessment for food content materials. On the other hand, to raise the industry's awareness on the safety of food content material in China, we also organize a technical event, food content safety, which is regularly basics. And the website of www.content.org also been built up. If you want to receive information about food content material issues in China, this website would be a good source for you. Yep. Okay. Let the topics. Actually, reform on any safety legislation, and it's easy to accomplish worldwide. So why China made huge efforts and investments to reshape their system? In summary, I would say the current system is quite old, complex, and not harmonization, which cannot meet the demand on both the single market and the protection of consumer health. One of the shortcomings for current system is that it's quite complex. First of all, various organizations or agencies involved in developing standards for food content material, which include NHFPC, National Health Family Planning Commission, and also AQSIQ, the General Administration of Quality Supervision, Inspection and Quarantine, also take the responsibility to draw some of the standards related to food content material. And not to mention the administration of the States Council, authorities, industrial association. A lot of institutions or agencies get involved in drafting standards related to food content material in China. So they have different position and interest on the standards. Each party has their own position and interest on management of the food content materials. For example, So we manage the FCM from the perspective of food safety, or from the perspective of quality of industry products. It's still a topic to discussion in China right now, even though we have reached the new legislation on food contact material in China. And secondly, a huge number of standards related to food contact material in place. It is estimated more than 255 standards the industry needs to follow up in terms of compliance job for. Not to mention others actually have the compulsory status in China, which include the mandatory standard, for instance, the GB standard. And also we have some volunteer standards, T, SN standard, QB standard are also include the contact materials standards. For example, you can see the table. When you talk about the plastic, there's over 100 standards related to plastic and regimes are being introduced in China. Therefore, it's always challenging for industry and competent agencies to deal with such complex standards. Another shortcoming occurs is there's a big gap between existing legislation and compliance needs. Even China has implemented quite a huge of standards on food contact material, but actually are limited to certain group of materials, such as certain plastic. There are more need for additive to be expected to use in the industry, and we are lack of the standard for the non-stainless steel. So what we can see with the development of economy, innovation, and food safety require more legislations to meet the demands. In general, we recognize China that the current system is lack of harmonization and scientific evidence. For example, for identical article or materials like plastic regimes, in different standards, we have the different definition or interpretations. And we also see different or even conflict restriction or limitation for identical or same food contact materials. We quite often see the complaint from the industry that China lack of testing method and guidance to perform the migration test. Over the years, a lot of complaint about some of the standards and their provisions. For instance, why the recycled material cannot be used in food contact material? Does it make sense to adapt a generic or simplified condition to present most of the food contact material or their actual or foreseeable condition of use? For instance, we apply 16 degree 2 hours to simulate some migration testing. So in China, when looking back over a couple years ago, we have difficulties on understanding and implementing the current safety standard in China. So we can see over the past 10 years, the safety of food contact material have been the hot topic in China. In the media, in a Congress meeting, the government agency and the industry to raise the concern about the migration, the isolators, PA, photon initiators, mineral oil, heavy metal from the ceramic, and the mechanical products. Chemical migration have been raised in Chinese media, and some. So which push us need to do more to protect the consumers' health. So therefore, it's time to change. A new food content material regulation system is needed. And the reform of food content material legislation by the demand, as the safety law actually play a key role in reform of food content material legislation in China, which set up some crucial provisions applicable to food content materials. I would like to some of them. First of all, the National Health and Family Planning Committee take the full responsibility to draft the regulations to the safety of the food, also include the food content material. Which means, except for safety standard, it's not allowed in China to draft the mandatory standards applicable to food content materials. And the implementation reform is led by a committee secretary under the National Health Family Planning Committee. Under this committee secretary, there's an expert working group to take care of the routine work. I'm one of the members. The whole process can be separated into 4 steps, which 1 year to complete a survey in 2012 to identify the problem and made a recommendation further actions. And during the 2013 to 2015, integration and amendments job was carried out. Some of standards are removed and some of standards were integrated into one or single standards. Some of the standards were developed in the majority of materials were published, which means a new regulation system is coming on. What the new system looks like, regulation for your reference, which can be classified as 3 parts. One is the framework regulation, including general safety standard, GB 4806.1. And another framework regulation is GB 9685, requirement for additives. And another part is a series of products or specific standards, including the GMP for industry to private, as well as a series of product standard, like plastic, glass, ceramic, metallic products, rubber, coating. to introduce. I would say the new system made a fundamental change compared to the old system. Here, I will highlight some of the key changes. In the old system, the name of the standard, we use the title hygiene standard. But in new systems, we change to use the name safety, which means there can be a range of requirements. In the old systems, we apply a negative approach to manage the safety of food contact material. In the system, we introduce positive list approach to manage the safety of food contact materials. And in the old system, we mainly reverse the product standards. But in the new system, the standards will cover the whole supply chain, as I mentioned earlier, including GMP, new substance assessment, and also the standards for the finished products. In the old system, when I talk about the restriction or some limitations, in the old system, we only focus on general items like the heavy metals, like the overall residues. In the new system, we put a lot of new requirements and limitations, such as general items and the specific migration limits, and also specification also be included. The most, I think, the challenge is to run the migration testing. In the old system, we use the simplified testing condition, but in the new system, it's quite complex. It's quite similar to the EU approach. The testing condition need to be chosen according to the intended condition of use. Some of the parameters you need to consider it, like the similar temperature for temperature and the time, and also the surface to volume ratio. Some of the reduction factor need to be considered when you calculate the final results. Among those safety standards, 06.1 general safety standard is designed as the framework regulation, which set up the basic requirements for food contact materials sold in China. This framework regulation applicable to all of the food contact materials, including packaging, containers, housewares, equipment, and so on. The detergent, disinfectant, and public water supply facilities are not. Some of the most important provisions are so as follows. It's quite similar to the EU framework regulation. You can see the basic requirements. The substance migrating into the food is the human health. And the substance migrating should not cause the change of the food ingredient, composition, and sensory character. should not pose a technical effect on packaged food. The manufacturers need to keep in mind that to reduce the use amounts as low as possible if the intended effect had been achieved. The GFS standard also addressed the measure of of the quality specification for certain food contact materials. The substances should comply with the requirement of relevant quality specification set up in relevant product standards. Also, the measure of NIOS is set up in the general safety standard. The contain the migrate the NIOS substances need to make sure then to comply with the requirement of provision set up in 3.1 and 3.2. Some of the manufacturers will maybe are interested in is it possible for the industry to use approval is meet the criteria for the non-approved they're not direct contact with the food and blocked by function barrier, the manufacturer should perform safety assessment and control methods. Ensure migration not exist the 0.1 milligram kilogram. But in some cases, mutagenic teratogens and now earlier in the new Chinese regulation, the manufacturer need to make sure the manufacturer of the food contact materials should come requirement. So which means the manufacturer need to take every appropriate purchase they comply with the GB 31603. Okay, in generally Chinese new legislation and food contact material is quite similar with the EU, but there's some difference. I'm not the expert on EU and FDA regulation. For discussion purpose, I'm trying to give you a comparison between China, EU, and FDA. Firstly, with the structure of the system, I would say EU and China are trying to develop the legislation with the purpose of the uniform system. So you can see both in China and EU, the legislation include the framework regulation and specific standards. The GMP and testing methods also include. And the FDA looks like a little bit fragmented. FDA set up the specific provisions in the 2021 CFR. Secondly, regarding the standard already in place, China is a system much more aggressive as a number of tests such as plastic, metallic, paper and paper bowl, ceramic, glass. In EU and FDA, not updated legislation for years. So what we see is only a few legislation on certain group of food content materials. In EU have the plastic, ceramic has the legislation on the plastic, ceramic, and cellulose film. And in United States, FDA built out some legislation on plastic and ceramic as well as the paper. When you look at the detailed restriction or limitations, China's standard cover a wide range of items, which really cover specific migration, but also includes some of the items like sensory requirements, overall migration, and generic items. For example, African starting we also have the requirement for heavy metals express lid. In EU, I think the limitation are focused on the migration, including the overall migration and the specific migration. For FDA, trying the testing method as the mandatory method. It's quite different with the EU.
Marco, I'm not sure if you have a technical problem. We don't seem to be able to hear you anymore. Not sure what the problem is. As I told you at the beginning, this is live, and Marco's over in China, and we're in Switzerland. So right now I'm not sure what's happening, but maybe we'll just give him a little moment to come back. apologize for the inconvenience. Sorry. Okay, Marco's still there and advancing the slides. Marco, can you check your microphone, please? We can't hear you, Marco. We can see the slides, but we can't hear you. Okay, while we wait for Marco to get back to us, I would like to remind you that you have the possibility to send in questions. Please send your questions to events@fp-forum.org, and I hope that we will get Marco back, get his audio back, so that we can ask him the questions. I certainly have a lot of questions, Marco. And I also am conscious of the time running out. Okay, good. Another possibility, Marco, to get you back would be maybe that you can dial in by phone. I'm very sorry about this. It's one of the great things with this new technology. When it works, it's terrific, but when it doesn't, I at least am not really sure what to do right now. Okay. I will. So, Marco, I suggest you try unmuting yourself in case you've muted yourself. Or alternatively, I can open Oscar's line. Oscar, can you hear me? Maybe you can use Oscar's microphone. Okay, my apologies to everyone. I think we will, if you want to bear with us, we will wait for just a few more minutes to see if we can get Marco back. We've got various ideas now how to get him back online. Okay, we still don't have any audio from you, Marco. So I'm trying to reach him by phone now, but I guess he's probably turned off his phone, which is what I would do if I had to do a presentation. Okay, I think we are going to have to acknowledge our defeat to the technology. What I will propose is this. So we've taken almost all the time now anyway to do the webinar, and I can happily report that we've recorded the webinar. So the first part of Marco's presentation will be made available on our website, and we will have a part 2. So stay tuned. We will inform certainly everyone who registered for the webinar to we will inform them to let them know when part 2 of this webinar will take place, and then we will ask Marco to share the second part of his presentation with us, and at that time then I hope that we will be able to offer you the opportunity for Q&A. I'm very sorry that this didn't work out as we had planned, but that's the way it goes. And with that, I would like to again invite you to send any questions you have at this stage to events@fp-forum.org. I will share the website with you right now. And hopefully we will be able to get to all of your questions then next time. Good, and my colleague just tells me that we do have some questions.
Yes, some questions. Yes, some questions. Yes, some questions.
Hi, Jim.
Hello, Marco.
It sounds.
You're back.
It's not. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
No problem. Whose microphone are you using right now? Your own?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can mute Oscar. Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you again now. Good.
Okay.
Marco, our time is up. And
Okay.
I have just proposed that we will organize a part 2 webinar, if that's okay with you, because I don't want to keep people on the call for any longer. So we will find a date very soon, and then we will talk about the differences and similarities between European and American food contact regulation, and we will also learn from you how you will enforce the regulation. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Great. Excellent. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Here you have the email address to which you can send questions, events@fp-forum.org, and we will be in contact with you shortly to let you know when part 2 of Chinese food contact regulation webinar will be carried out. And with that, I would like to thank everyone and wish you a good continuation of your day. Goodbye.